Hi, I'm Andrew Zimmerman Jones, and welcome to episode 2 of my science vlog. Today we're going to discuss 5 of the most significant scientists in history. So the reason these 5 guys are great is because they really transformed the way people thought, the way people within the sciences thought, and ultimately the way people outside the sciences thought. Just so you know, Beaker will not be in the list of top 5. Although I should do a top 5 of fictional scientists, so maybe in a future episode. But right now we're going to do the top 5 of actual scientists. And the first one will be probably the most controversial. He's sometimes called the first scientist, Aristotle. The reason Aristotle gets credit as a scientist is because he's really one of the first major thinkers to put forward the idea that the way you get knowledge is by looking at the world. Aristotle really believed that you could look at the world and derive truths from it. Now, what's unfortunate is he wasn't very good at doing this. A lot of things Aristotle believed ultimately didn't pan out to be true, but he still gets credit for being the first person to really kind of prioritize this, and being in that way kind of the founder of what they called at the time natural philosophy, which later became science. Where it took its next step was about 2,000 years later with Galileo. One of Galileo's big things is he came up with the idea that the falling of objects was not dependent on the weight. But he did this by just actually trying it. He came up with some ideas and then he tested them out, and sure enough, objects of different weights fell at the same rate in Earth's gravity, which completely contradicted what Aristotle thought would happen based on his own expertise with, dropping rocks and feathers and seeing that they fell different. And so you really have to be careful about how you're conducting the experiment. The other thing Galileo did was he took the telescope and looked into the heavens. Everybody thought the universe was static and that everything in the universe was unchanging, and when he looked, he saw that there were moons and things moving around up there. Next up, we have Newton, who followed closely on the heels of Galileo. Newton really was a huge figure. He really created these formal structures that were just meticulously defined and mathematically rigorous and matched with experiment, and he built really like kind of the framework for 300 years of science on things like motion and gravity and light. That's in physics. Throw in someone here from a non-physics standpoint, it would be Charles Darwin. In the 1800s, he came up with the theory of evolution. There had been some theories beforehand that talked about, kind of how things could progress, but there was not really a way to explain how the changes could be built up over time. What's up with the facial hair on these guys, by the way? If anyone has any better scientist facial hair than the gentleman in this list so far, Newton excluded, he's got his own kind of coif going. But if anyone has better facial hair than like Darwin or Galileo, if you got a more massive science beard that you can think of, please let me know in the comments, because I can't think of one. Like Darwin, I think, wins. And that takes us to Albert Einstein, who revolutionized science. He created basically quantum physics. He actually proved that there were atoms, and best known for his theory of relativity. We'll probably have episodes on pretty much all of these subjects individually. So what's great about science, really, is that you can't be fake when you're doing science. When you're doing science, you have to be committed to the evidence. If you aren't committed to the evidence, it just isn't going to work. And these guys are the epitome of that. They did their best to represent reality as they saw it. Many of their ideas stood the test of time until someone figured out the right way to question them. And I think that's the key thing within science, is that the goal is to really try and understand as much as you can, with the understanding that you're not going to understand everything. All 5 of these guys were wrong about things they believed. That's another key thing. And we'll talk about that, I'm sure, in greater length at another time. There are no authorities in science. Even the greatest people were horribly wrong about things that are within their area of expertise, and that really has to be taken into account as well, I think. So these are good examples not only of the best in science, but also of where scientists can make mistakes, and why it's so important to be rigorous in questioning your own ideas rather than embracing them. Thanks for joining us for our second episode of the vlog. If you enjoyed it and would like to see it continue on Geek and Sundry, please do not hesitate to click on the vote button and come back every day over the next week to vote on it to help get us on the channel. We really appreciate it. And leave comments with your favorite beard, either among the choices we have in our set or someone you've come up with who wasn't included in my list. Bye.